Hello everyone. Thank you for joining me on this Friday. Wow, hello. A lot of people sitting in chat. Looks like everyone's really loving the music. I tried to mix it up a little bit. I imagine it's a little strange without context. This is the Starde Valley soundtrack, which is pretty easy listening. Can very much be almost like a lullaby in some cases. Some tracks, especially the ones that it starts out with. This is the first ones off the soundtrack. Oh, this is a good song. What else do we have? This is Spring. This is the best one. It's my favorite song. Excuse me, I'm very sleepy. I've not slept well this week. Whoops. Here, let's get rid of all this stuff. Hey, thanks for the cheer. An anonymous cheer. Hello, Voy. Hello, everybody. Apologies for not running through. Starting things off with a yawn matches the music. Yes, it's very sleepy music, but I'm a very sleepy person. We had an earthquake this week, so like I've been working very late lately, and it's been kind of rough. I think it's taken a toll where I've been pretty sleepy towards the tail end of this week. So I had one night where I was like, I'm gonna go to bed early, and I'm gonna get a great night's sleep, and it's gonna be wonderful. So Liz and I went to bed early, and that night we had like a gnarly earthquake and then like several aftershocks like periodically every hour. So we just kept waking up. It was real nice. That was 2 nights ago. And then last night our cats were just freaking out. They're really sweet, but our one younger cat, he's very what's the word? Rambunctious sometimes. Insanely mad at the fishing minigame while playing this song. Oh yeah, fishing can be rough. I like fishing in Starde Valley. It's not so complex, but there's something to it. So it's not quite, it's like Animal Crossing fishing, right? Where it's not like a whole game unto itself, but there's some complexity to it. So today, I mean, honestly, I got a little bit less conflict resolution done this week than I wanted to, so I was going to try and do some on stream. You guys can see what it takes to do some conflict resolution. We've done a little bit. I mentioned this before, I think. I'm so happy to be done with this one in particular. I'll stick with blizzards. Blizzards are rough. Earthquakes are rough. They don't happen very often, though. I think I'd take earthquakes over tornadoes. I'd prefer neither, but I guess I grew up in California, so I'm used to earthquakes. It's pretty freaky though, and my wife, she's from the Midwest, so it's still a strange phenomenon for her, I think. So we're about here in terms of conflict resolution, right? Like here, you know what? Before I do this, I can show you guys something else I've been working on. Hey Miami Nights, how you doing? You know what? Here, I'm gonna go through. Everybody, thanks for joining me. Skycap, Connor, Plot, CT, Cool Beans, Kasomi, Hazard, Mika, Ring, Major English Esquire. Who else? Alan, Milk Toasting. Who did I miss? Void Dude, Anonymous Cheerer. I think that's everyone, at least thus far. Miami Nights, there we go. Hello to all of you. Positive comment guy as well. Got a little hurricane coming, no one in Florida. Oh yeah, hurricanes, no bueno. Yeah, I'm used to earthquakes that don't bring your house down on top of you. That's true. We've experienced some pretty bad, like reasonably bad earthquakes in my lifetime, but nothing like the Northridge quake. That is. Hey Sacroletes, how you doing? Wow, thank you again for the cheer. Anonymous cheer. So, here, I'm gonna close this real fast. This is the best song in the entire game, by the way, in my opinion. It's my personal favorite. So one of the things I did this week was getting... What is overwriting you? There not be anything. Okay, that's all. That's good. That's good. This is good. That's fine. These are not fine. Why are these? Okay, hold up. Weapons, armor, clothing, and clutter fixes. Hold up. I mean, these are archives. This is why BSAs are so annoying to me. They're cool. They're annoying, though. Take these. What, can I not hide these? Why are these italicized? I don't know what that means. Oh, well. You know what? And also, does that mean... Hold up just a moment. A Midian Born. Book of Silence. Why? What? Hold up. Oh. Why are these here? I meant to move these and I forgot. That's why. Okay, makes sense. Hey Silver, how you doing? I'm doing just fine. A little sleepy. Anyway, I had some time this week to reorganize the left pane into something that makes a little bit more sense and will facilitate the performance profiles. So all of these actually need to get gone back into this area. Where are we at? These are gameplay mechanics. Honestly, we can stick these wherever. Doesn't really matter. Let's take you. Get a nice little refresh. Alright, sick. We good. Anyway, so the left pane here, this might not be exciting to the rest of you guys, but it's exciting to me. So I have things roughly organized into a few different sections. And what this will allow us to do is very easily kind of separate out what you might call the full version graphical enhancements, right? So, looks like I'm dropping frames. What the H? Basically, the way it's going to work is that anything above this line is going to be included in a core install, and that does include some audio-visual enhancements, right? But not a lot. Just kind of NPC stuff and a few sound adjustments. And beyond that, I'm going to try and keep all of the rest of the graphical enhancements to the kind of the full version. I'm essentially trying to make it so that people with potato computers, or as close to one as possible, can play the game. You ever played Skyrim? LE for the win. Hey Bert, how you doing? Yeah, that is I mean, LE has some advantages, but it's let's just say I'm happy to be moving to Special Edition. That's for sure. Okay. Well, with all of that sorted, I think I'm good to go. Let's pop in, shall we? It's just a lot of advantages of Special Edition, really. LE has no floating NPCs. Huh? Working on my new load order for my Xbox. Can you sort your load order? Oh, whoops. Here, I'll fix that, Connor. Thank you. Wait, is this the song that I was thinking of? I can't. Where's the volume? I don't like using Google Music anymore. Also, I'm not speaking very loud. How's that? Because I'm sleepy. I wanted to... I really enjoy these streams from like a connecting to the community standpoint, but I don't think they're great from like a development update standpoint, so I'm going to try and start listing some development updates and kind of developer manifestos and stuff on Patreon like I used to do. It's just a matter of finding the time. Sacrilegious, does that bug not exist on Legendary Edition? What? Okay, where are we at? About here? That's right. Now guess distance. I already did all these. Where's gist again? There we go. Suspicious city guards. Nice. Alright, boys and girls, let's hit it. Most of these should be fine. I'm gonna just do some basic kind of text updates here. Hold up. I'm kind of particular about subtitles. Hope everyone had a good week. Oh, this is the best one. Do turn up your music if you can. This is my favorite song. There you go. Or like these. Who's typing this out? Or like, I mean, I guess that's vanilla. Whatever. Oh, here we go. Here's some conflict resolution. One Lydia is bad enough. Not if she's super hot, right? Okay. So this one's always tricky. It's like, honestly, I can feel my brain falling apart as I try and do this on stream. It's either I talk to you guys or I do this. I can't do both at the same time. Hope you guys can talk amongst yourselves. I feel like guard dialogue overhaul and relationship dialogue overhaul will often be doing the same thing. Yep. Just using a different series of conditions. Or they're the same conditions often. But they are in a different order. Ring. This is xEdit, baby. This is conflict resolution. So essentially what we've got going here is one dialogue record. And you have, so in this case, what do you want, little elf? I'm assuming this is a guard saying this, excuse me. So you have several different mods that are trying to make adjustments to the conditions under which this dialogue will play. So I've actually conflict resolved this one already, so I don't need to do it. But this is a mod, right? Essentially each one of these mods is trying to make their own changes to the conditions. And so it's our job to make sure that the changes that each one is trying to make are properly forwarded. Alright, so hopefully I won't have to do anything here because I already have. Here we go. So here's a good example. So Hunters Not Bandits is a mod that makes it so hunters are a little less strange in terms of how they apply their dialogue to usually dead animals or to animals in general. So they're not gonna, see a deer and then start taunting it like they would if they were fighting a human. And in this case, you can see, let's see, relationship dialogue overhaul is making a change to, I guess just, this is like a brusque greeting, so it wants to make sure that if someone's friendlier than this with you, they're not quite as brusque. But also Hunters Not Bandits is making this change, I think, in order to ensure that hunters don't address dead animals. Hey Rust, how you doing? Master. House Carls are quite bad followers of Vanilla. They have personality of potato. Maybe. I think Lydia's not so bad. I wish they all had a few more dynamic kind of comments on like locations and stuff. Alright, same thing here. Oops. I think that's fine actually. So this one, I'm gonna just forward these basic conditions so that no one talks to dead things. What do we got? Same thing here. If you put all these conflict resolutions into a separate mod, and when you load it with them, it fixes the conflicts. Yes, essentially. That's kind of the most essential function that the Ultimate Skyrim plugins serve, is that they... The way that Skyrim works, or the way that Bethesda engine games work, is they only load the data from the very last plugin affecting a record, right? So in these instances, like here, this condition that Hunters Not Bandits is trying to apply is not going to be forwarded or recognized by the game. So it's our job to go in, make sure that we forward it. I like how they potatoes, they have a special charm to them. I suppose so. I just like them feeling like real people, even if they're dicks. I don't mind someone being a dick, because plenty of people are dicks. Morlock, thank you for the sub. Much appreciated. Let's see here. This is the store. Is this Marnie's store? This, I think so. Let me see. No, this is the festival. Here, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm feeling actually some Elder Scrolls. Let's put it on. Some Oblivion. I've been so into the Oblivion soundtrack lately. Hey Dark, how you doing? Just doing some yield conflict resolution. You know how it goes. So most of these I'm not gonna have to touch. Which is nice, you can see that at a glance. The color-coded nature of them. xEdit, the most beautiful tool that there ever was. Also, make that a little bit louder again. Mix it up a bit. Boom. iHUD. Now, hopefully, the vast majority of these mods, I mean, these ones where I'm at in the load order are mostly kind of proprietary mechanics, so they're not going to have a whole lot of conflicts in general, which is nice because it's very easy to conflict resolve them, right? It's literally what you see me doing. None of these have any sort of record overrides, which is really cool. What is this? RSBJ? I don't even remember. Let's see here. What is RSBJ? Oh, really simple blackjack. Okay, so these ones are very likely not going to have much to do. One thing I do want to make sure about, there's some dialogue. Play blackjack. I'd like to play blackjack again. I'm very particular about stuff, about subtitles and dialogue and things like that. Dark, conflict resolving is a form of making your own mod, but it's basically taking stuff that all the other mods are doing and making sure that they're able to do them properly. Oh yeah, Kasumi. Endless Fantasy, great album on Amanaguchi. USA is really good too. I wish that I knew USA better when I saw Anamanaguchi, because they played all of USA. They played a couple songs from Endless Fantasy, but it was mostly USA, and I hadn't yet dove into that album yet. And I wish that I had, because it's really good. And still, seeing them live was awesome. But obviously it's more fun when you know the songs well. What are you? Story Brancher, oh my god. Manager Branch Node. That's always a weird record. Some of these records behave differently. You really only pick up on that stuff when you've spent a lot of time doing this. Certain types of records behave differently. So these are really nice. These we get to move through. This is the easiest type of conflict resolution that you can do. A lot of conflict resolution is just rote work. Who are you? Oh, this cell exists, huh? So a lot of the time you'll see mods have to create their own separate cells for certain assets to be stored within them. Maybe assets isn't the right word. For certain things like containers and whatnot. So they'll create their own cells, right? And just kind of stick it in there. Like certain objects within the game world like need to exist within the game world somewhere for them to function properly. So they'll be dumped into like their own proprietary little cell that the player can never access. This is interesting because this Hazard game did that with a pre-existing one. Puppet Man, hey Dylan, I know you're into portable gaming. Have you seen the Analog Pocket? I don't think I have, Puppet Man. Let's see. Make a new window. Analog Pocket. Pocket Analog. Oh wow, look at this. I dig the form factor for sure. Is that an actual... Does it actually play Game Boy games? If so, that's wild. Castlevania 2, Belmont Revenge. Yeah, the form factor, it looks beautiful. I mean, it looks like it would be really cool for, like, maybe anything up to, like, Game Boy Advance, although it doesn't have an L or an R. But, I mean, the form, or obviously it's intended for, you know, Game Boy Color and things like that. And what does it run on? HDMI out. This is glorified newer Game Boy. Hey, Anordil, how you doing? It does have an L and R. On the back. Oh, yeah, I see it now. Small handheld devices. And hours hacking to allow custom firmware, then never actually play them is embarrassing. Ring, you and me both. The same. Also, yes, Sacrilegious, what Hazard's talking about is a big, maybe not big issue or anything like that. It's just a thus far a limitation of xEdit. Sometimes there are very specific changes that we'd like to apply to many different records, and it's not so great at that. It's good at applying simple changes across many different records. Interesting. Does it run just purely... I'm assuming that it just kind of has its own OS, and it seems like mainly built for the games to run like natively as opposed to running something like Android, right? But I mean, the form factor is beautiful. Absolutely gorgeous. Yeah, how expensive is it? Excuse me, let's find out. Ooh, $200. That is a hefty price for something that looks mostly like it's intended to play... What, up to... Can it play Game Boy Advance games? Menu. Editions. Noir. Hyperdub. Show me what it can do. So just like a basic... Do I want... Oh, here we go. Oh, I think... What is this website? Ugh. Why is this text so huge? Okay, so Game Boy Advance. If you can get something that can play Game Boy Advance like this, and it's not emulating... Oh, look, Golden Sun. It's not emulating, so that's really cool. The idea that it's not emulating at all, that it's actually the native cartridges, that's cool. That's unique. I like it. It's got kind of like an old school thing going on. It's definitely a different strategy than, you know, the typical way that these single board chip things tend to work now, which is emulation. Playing Game Boy games. Music playing while you can't find that last fucking goblin. Oh yeah, memories. Learn all the functions of xEdit. CT, I've been using xEdit for thousands of hours at this point, and there's still tons of functions that I don't utilize. But yes, if you're into patching, or you're into just playing large load orders in general, it's a necessity. It's the best tool for fixing that kind of thing. Obviously, the creation kit is better suited for other types of modding and changes. But xEdit, when it comes to conflict resolution and making large load orders work together, there's no beating xEdit. It's a beautiful, beautiful tool. Rancid Bean, just want to say, man, I love US and all the work you do to keep the modding community going. Keep up the amazing work. Thank you very much, Rancid Bean. Much appreciated. I remember getting the original Mario to run on my wife's phone when she was stressing out in the gyno office. That's funny. Website screams scam to me. The text formatting is not ideal. Sent me a video not long ago, some black magic he conducted. He was playing Halo Reach on his phone. Oh, yeah. Hey, Fander. How you doing? I was using a script called merge overrides into masters. You can merge override data into a master. What's the purpose of that, Sacrolettes? Were you talking about editing the actual default, like, original plugins from the mods? Because generally speaking, I try to avoid that. I was using Steam Link Ring. I've been experimenting with different streaming options to my phone since I got the Razer Kishi, right? The three kind of big ones are... oh, you know what? I'm going to need to... Let me... Actually, I don't know if this is going to mess with things. Here, I won't mess with it. I'm going to leave my other monitor off, but I need to get my technical notes out here, my port notes, just in case I run across something that needs fixing. Like noting. So there's certain things that I can't fix in xEdit. A good example of this would be navigation meshes, right? So a nav mesh, for those who aren't familiar, is what it's essentially you defining the parts of the world that NPCs can walk in and can pathfind in, and it's created in the creation kit by a series of vertices, which is exactly what you see here. So just dots essentially that create triangles that create a mesh that spans the whole floor. And when you have two nav meshes conflicting, you can't really reconcile them in xEdit, because xEdit only displays the data that the meshes are consisted of, which is mostly vertices data. It doesn't quite work the same way that conflict resolving other records does. So this kind of thing. Now this one's fine in particular. Like, this isn't a good example of one that needs fixing, because we have Skyrim and Keep It Clean are editing the nav mesh for whatever this is, Sleeping Giant Inn. Keep It Clean probably because it adds that additional cell that has the like baths and stuff in it. Realistic Room Rental is changing up the nav mesh, right? Because it makes changes to the inside of the inns. And so here's a patch that we have that is already essentially a reconciliation between Keep It Clean and Realistic Room Rental that will allow NPCs to utilize the Keep It Clean rooms. So this one's already been resolved. But if it had not been, you'd have a problem where Keep It Clean and Realistic Room Rental both need their changes forwarded, but you can't really do that in xEdit. It's not how it works. Anyway, Ring. I've been doing streaming experiments, trying to figure out the best way to stream stuff to my phone, computer games, that is. The Steam Link is pretty cool because it lets you stream, from whatever, or stream from your computer, whatever's on your computer. I've also been looking at Stadia and GeForce Now, but those are obviously quite different in terms of how they do streaming. How long have I been modding for? Oh man. Technically, since I was probably like 12 or 13, but that was rudimentary. The modding that I did then was extremely simple. And you can show more details about the nav meshes in xEdit and options. It's a mod on Nexus, scalable nav cut boxes in game. Yeah, that's really cool. When I was 13, I was modding like Oblivion and stuff, and I'd modded like other games a little bit. I was always kind of, I had a lot of time on my hands back then. I lived with my grandparents. I didn't start playing sports in earnest. Like, I played baseball and basketball around that time, but it wasn't that much of a time sink. Sports didn't become like a big time sink for me until I was in high school. Even then, when sports were over, I basically just spent all of my afternoons and evenings playing games with friends or playing computer games. So I had a lot of time to mod and to mess around with that stuff. And then all the way up through high school and then college, I'd play the Elder Scrolls games and I would mod them when I had the time. And I've definitely done more modding in the past, 3 or 4 years than I have in the whole rest of my life combined. But that's because I've been doing Ultimate Skyrim. It takes a lot of modding. Show more details about the nav meshes and xEdit. Those options, more data. Interesting. What kind of data are we talking, Sacriladius? Simple records. Oy. By the way, this setting, alignable array elements, game changer when this came out. There's been several iterations of xEdit that have just absolutely blown me away. I believe this option came out with xEdit 4.0. We're using 4.0.3. 4.0 was crazy. It was so awesome. It's like the nerdiest thing ever, but oh man, did it make some excellent changes to this program. It was always a cool program, but it's just so much better even. What do we have here? Okay, so we're looking at keep it clean here. So what we're going to go through and do is your keep it clean is going to be editing a lot of the same things as realistic room rental. And generally speaking, we're going to want realistic room rental to take precedent. So here's an example of, what is this? A barrel that exists in vanilla, exists in keep it clean. Keep it clean, adjust the position slightly, chances are, because otherwise it's in the way of keep it clean's new cell door. Realistic room rental disables it completely, and because the realistic room rental layout is what we're aiming for, we're generally gonna be letting it take precedent. Been a gamer through and through for almost 15 years. Awesome, Silver. I started playing video games when I was like 5, 6. I mean, I guess technically before that. No, that would be around. It would be around that time. How old am I now? 28. So yeah, I guess about 14 years. I know you said USSCC is mostly just a port. I'm assuming it still includes the death mechanics. Not as of now, Kasumi, because the death mechanics don't really work. The initial build, I don't believe will have death mechanics yet. Maybe it will, because what I'm looking at instead now is what you might call save mechanics. So we might have the option for permadeath, but then also you'll have limited ability to save, I think is kind of how we're going with it as of now. So this is interesting. So open cities is tricky because typically open cities edits to interiors are oh, this is weird. What they do is make sure that when you leave a cell, instead of going back out to the original cell, the one that's in its own world space, they make it so that you properly go to the open cities Tamriel world space. This is weird though. Rent room check, bath door. So we're gonna forward these. Okay, this is weird. So what we have happening here, it seems, is that keep it clean is co-opting the regular door that goes into and out of the Nunissus Corner Club and using it as the in door. Or sorry, the bath door. But then, yeah, that's fine. This is going to end up weird. Does it make a new door then? This is where conflict resolution gets weird. Oh, I know. So I'm on this. Yeah, so it creates a new door entirely. Excuse me. At least it seems. trapdoor. This is weird. Are there 2 doors to the bath? Hazard say ashes will always remain an option. I mean, I won't be including it in the install in any way. So I guess option in the sense that someone else can install it on top. Also, CT, automating MCMs is something I really want to do. Plot is right that it's not so bad after you're used to it, but it just sucks. Memories, my first game was Final Fantasy X for PS2. We spent a week without knowing that we needed a memory card. Oh, jeez, that's rough. That was my first completed Final Fantasy game, actually. I'd love to see a mod that works alongside open cities to make stores and buildings work like that too, but it's probably not possible right now. Work like what, Silver? Second door is for the secret strip club right next to the bathhouse. Is that actually true? Hazard, do you know what's going on here? This is very strange. Well, here's what we'll do. We will forward these, and then we can pop in and see. Nav Mesh. See, here's a problem. Although, why would this not be patched by the patch that exists? Door triangles. This is weird. Oh, you're talking about doing open cities to make all the interiors open in the same way? It's an interesting idea. A lot of people have tried to or have thought about doing that. That is oh my god. Talk about a lot of work. Open cities is already a lot of work. Okay, well this is actually quite confusing. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to let this forward as well as the realist. In fact, you know what? I'm going to forward these as well, which it might not work still. But we're going to see what happens. So we're going to save this. And then, alright guys, remember here I got to write down where we are. Where's my handy dandy notebook? Otherwise it's too easy to get. Confused. Okay, block 1, sub-block 4. Handy dandy notebook. Go. Block, what was it? Block 1? Block 1. Sub-block 4. Okay. Let's take a look, everyone. Use bookmarks to mark where you are. Bookmarks in xEdit? Where's bookmarks? Other. I want to use a bookmark. How do you use that? What is that? First Final Fantasy game was 15 and I loved it. I haven't had the pleasure of going back and playing the others. Oh, wow. Options menu, xEdit, you see a checkbox, simple records. Uncheck. Oh, so it's simplifying them. I understand. Sacrilegious. Interesting. Control 1. Alt 1. Look at that. I had no idea. Boom. Very cool. And this persists through sessions? I guess we'll find out. I mean, we have it written down anyway. Oh, very cool. Thank you very much. All right, let's pop in. Let's see. Oh, you know something else I wanted to do? I wanted to see where's enhanced lighting for E and B? Where do I have you? There it is. I wanted to see how this looks without, I guess I'm still using an E and B, so that doesn't quite shake out. I'm going to leave that off for now, actually. Okay. Let's pop in. See what's up. Super Meat Boy. Wait, Sacolettius, you can open 2 xEdit windows? How? I've always, I mean, I know you can do it, but then they won't, like, save, right? Or they interact strangely. Just open the automatic variants tutorial from 2015. Oh, yeah. You talk about ours? Mine? What a time to be alive. FF 6 through 10 are the golden ages. Yes. I've actually been meaning to go back through Final Fantasy now that I have, you know, my phone all set up to play PSP games. I'd like to do the whole series. There's a few different series I like to run through. And I just need to find the time to do it. I'd like to do Castlevania, and I'd like to do Final Fantasy, and I'd like to do the Mega Man series. Particularly, I want to run through Mega Man 0 on GBA, because it's so good. Anything Inti creates, it's just really, really good. And what Final Fantasy games have I beaten? 10. I think that's actually it. I've never beaten any of the rest of them. I just end up, like, not completing them. Well, no, I can't even count Final Fantasy Tactics Advance. I don't think I beat that either. Which, by the way, great game. Very different. But, what the H? Yeah, multiple xEdit windows is dangerous for me. Yeah, that's my problem. I mean, you can open more than one, but then which one is the active one gets tricky. Been playing US for 2 years, on and off. Can't wait to see it come to SSE. All the other SSE Requiem overhauls are... Whoa, why is this a little stretched? Hopefully that'll fix. So minimalistic Requiem only. Been stuck with living Skyrim, as great as it is, no doubt. Yet anywhere near the same level of difficulty and immersion as US. Keep it up. Thank you very much. Arignum. Beatrix was my first game crush. Only Final Fantasy game, Final Fantasy Tactics Advance. Great game. Yeah, what the heck is happening here? Everything all squished and stretched. For me, the only ones I'll probably go through be all Ratchet & Clank games. Yeah, this is not correct. First 2 sagas. What is happening? It would be 90. That's not helping. No, why am I doing help? Something is odd here. Hold up. We're gonna have to quit out of here. Could be something weird going on. Let's see. Should be fine. Unless... How are you set, my friend? Should be fine. Full screen true. Yeah, so we're good to go there. You guys know how Skyrim is. Also, why is this not enabled? I think I had an NVIDIA 8800 GT. Trying out TSO, finding it quite enjoyable. It's not US. Yes, boy. Total and I have... We're interested in different types of games, to be sure. Both interested in Requiem, though. Hey, Danily, how you doing? Alright, fingers crossed, everyone. Puppet, TSO is Total Skyrim Overhaul. It's Total's mod list on Wabbajack. Mod count appears to be 293, but that's just for the core. If you add in the graphics mods, it's a lot higher. It's like, I don't know, 400, 450, something like that. Quite a lot. A lot of mods. Looking at getting an RX 5700 XT. Excuse me. Yeah, that'll be awesome. I would like to get an AMD build going. I'm just a little nervous about it still. I still hear some issues about, like, not stability, I guess is one way of putting it, but just like all the, you know, the Intel NVIDIA combo is expensive, but you kind of know it's going to work out of the box. And I've heard other people having issues with their AMD. It seems like the Ryzen CPUs are just pretty delicious, but the like the GPUs seem to have some issues. So jealous, you damn Americans got Final Fantasy 3 for the SNES. Dude, Final Fantasy 3 is the weird black sheep, right? Did we get it for the SNES? I didn't know that. I know we got that DS remake, which I don't know if that's the hey, there we go. I don't know if that's the what's it called? Definitive way to play it. I know it's quite different than the original. Our Final Fantasy 3 was Final Fantasy 6. Intel is screwed. They're stuck on 14 nm. What does that mean, Praxis? 14 nanometers. Oh, my eyeballs. I have a problem with blinking, guys. Ask Connor, he knows. I forget to do it. Oh, this beautiful song. Have you heard of the High Elves? What's his name? Give me a name. Somebody. Our Nord man. Yeah, I'm excited for the new GPUs, the 3000 series. I think it's just nice when we have competition happening. You know, nice for us. Jaster Lone Wolf. There it is. Love it. Pillandary. Gunther Jorger. Oh, Connor, I'm sorry I missed it. Becken Haglungo. You're right, it is rigged. You'll get the next one, I'm sure. Going to you. Big SNES collection. I've just got PAL games. You know, I had a fun... So I was, so I installed, you know, SNES emulators and stuff on my phone. Because I got that new gamepad thing and I was just running through it. And I was... Typically my go-to game for testing input latency is Mega Man X. Because I've played it a lot and I know how it feels on like a CRT. And I can kind of quickly ascertain whether or not I'm getting any latency. And I was playing it, it just felt so weird. I was like, what's wrong with this game? And then I realized that I was like, did I download the PAL version? And lo and behold, I had that slick... You would think that 50 FPS would not be that big of a difference versus 60, but it totally is. He plans to change Skyrim Unbound so it does not spawn a dragon in the watchtower. You finish Bleak Falls Barrow. I don't know if that happens. CT. Let's see here. Windhelm exterior 01. I mean, I'm also not the person who would know. I've never experienced that. I have run through Bleak Falls in Skyrim Unbound. I don't remember that happening. But also our implementation of Skyrim Unbound was kind of donked. So I don't know if that's the problem. I mean, it could be. I don't know. Could be an older version. Hello. Yeah. Excuse me.
You should unload
Wow.
some of that unwanted gear.
That's not
Head
good.
over to Sadri's used wares. Talk to the elf.
Something about the textures that I've hidden or that are being assigned is causing problems. Amidian born. Miscusi. Whoa! Oh God. Sophie. What? Okay. That's Sadri's used wares, not the Nunes' Climate Club. Beautiful though.
If not,
yeah, I remember that dragon that spawns near, or like when you finish Bleak Falls Barrow. Okay. The sounds of Skyrim. Okay, so there's a bathing room. Upstairs. What's up, bruh?
Oh, splendid. Another Nord.
Can I...
Thank you. Here, this is for you.
Nice. Nice bathing room. Beautiful. Love it.
Come on in. Just stoke the fire. Take a seat and get the cold out.
Open Windhelm. Now let's see where it puts us. Are we in Open Cities version, or are we in... It looks like we're in Open Cities version. I think. Excuse me. Okay, there we go.
Need something?
Nope, I'm good. I think we are. I think it's working. The only thing that might not be working is, okay, we're good to go. We might not be seeing, people properly nav meshing.
Take a good look around. I'm sure you'll find what you
God dang it, why do I keep thinking that's Nunissus Corner Club? It's hard to say that 5 times fast. Getting caught on everything today.
Welcome. Let me know if you want anything.
For a second, I thought that the Oblivion music was playing in Skyrim. Go in here. This is not like a huge deal. Sometimes it's nice though if the NPCs come in here. Let's see. Chances are we're gonna do this a bunch of times, and I don't think that they're gonna be in here. Nope. Well, I can note this. At least, I mean, the core functionality is working. That's what matters the most as of now. I wonder what those other doors were that it was talking about. Strange. The stamina looks weirdly huge these days. Got used to the smaller ones we have with LI HUD. Oh yeah. I mean, LI HUD is still in there, Connor. It's just they haven't been adjusted. That's how massive the UI is by default. It's huge. I'm going to make it even smaller too, I think. Been thinking a lot about the new UI. Yeah, there's one that spawns outside of Bleak Falls Barrow just in general. It's not on the watchtower, but it comes to kill you. I remember that. But none on the watchtower. I think the new UI will be pretty similar to the old one, just with some changes, some slight changes, some improvements. What's ideas you got floating around for the new UIs? Like I said, so it's going to be pretty similar. I really like having the centralized vital information, you might call it. I'm going to improve the sneak bar so that it's not shitty to use. Or sneak icon, I guess you could say. I'll probably have the compass maybe down towards the bottom, and I'm trying to find a really nice spot for the active effects, so that they're not too far away and they're easy to see. In general, I want to make it a bit smaller, and I want to include the all the widgets under the Sky UI control, so that you can just get rid of the UI whenever you want. Any plans for Dear Diary? You talking about the one? Uh-oh, what happened here? Did I run this? The one that we already used? You're talking about Take Note. Oh, Dear Diary, the UI appearance changer. I will not be using that, CT. It's not really my style. I'm extremely particular about UI and UI design, and it's not for me for sure. Cool concept. So I thought I moved on to special edition. Did you not? Will there be a floating damage mod installed in your mod list? Probably not. I still haven't tried that one. That's one of Fellas Guy's mods, I believe. I would like to try it just to see how it's like, but I'm not a big fan. I would like to get rid of the health bars in particular. like I did originally, now that we might have some options for having animations show how damaged characters are, but I guess that only applies to like humanoids. So we'll see about that one. But in particular, or in general, I prefer more minimalistic HUDs versus, you know, having more kind of RPG information. Okay. Oh, look. Alt 1. Wow, look at that. Straight back. I'm just going to look at this one more time. That is interesting. Farm trapdoor. Unisys Corner Club. Bath rent room check. Huh. Don't know. Guess it doesn't matter all that much. But the Nav Mesh, this most likely will need some adjusting. Well, you know what? Actually, whoops, no. This one triangle might be able to connect it. So I don't know. We'll see about that. I'm going to write it down, though, in my notes just to note it. Just to note it. Let's see. Record, what is this? D278C. Nav Mesh, or keep it clean. Although the other thing is that it might not need it. The reason there might not be a patch here is because it might not be necessary. But also open cities. I don't know. Keep it clean. R might need NPCs. Okay, cool. That one mod that shows damage on the character, not tried it though. Now we'll lose spellcast and SSE. How I'll be able to gain levels in Alteration and Illusion doesn't require me to study my research book. Now we will lose spellcast and SSE. What does that mean? Morlock. Grabbed a brewski and swapped over to boot camp mode. Nice, Anardil. I hope it's optional. I found floating damage numbers kind of ridiculous. They work in MMOs games like Destiny, not so much in Skyrim. Yeah, it's generally my feeling as well, Connor. Trying to build a believable world, you know. Use DAR in any animation, including animals. Nice. It's just a matter of getting animations plot for... I mean, like, I know that you can set up the conditions so that they work under whatever, but then you have to have animations for, like, wounded animals, you know. Will you be using Requiem version 5 for US SSE? Yes. I will be using the... Whatever the version that releases on SSE is, that'll kind of be the basis. At least if they get it out in time, which I think they will. If not, we can use the last unofficial version as a basis. Cattle Hearth Hall, realistic room rental. See, same thing here. It's a little strange to me that we're not seeing Nav Mesh reconciliations here. Whoa. No. Dawnstar, Wind Peak, and Persistent. Keep it clean patch. It's like this one has one. The other ones don't. Smart cast. It sucks we can't choose levels. Worked real hard to get Master Illusions casting Soothe for 40 hours. I mean, you can always do that. Have I found anything similar to Smart Cast? Not really. I was, you know, I think Smart Cast was a questionable inclusion to begin with. But as for training, you'll have more options to train. You can always use, like, training dummies, cast them yourself. Trainers are getting a bit of a change eventually to make them a bit more viable. So there's always going to be ways to level up. That's weird. I don't like this. I don't understand why these are those different too. They are. I don't like that. You know what? I'm gonna make... What record is this? CBA 8E. Any plans for Legacy of the Dragonborn? Maybe eventually, Cremento. I think it's really cool. I had a really good time playing with it, and it's fantastic work. So, you know, maybe somewhere down the line. It's just it's quite the big ol' effort. Smartcast kind of essential now. I don't know about that personally. Now you focus heavily on immersion and keeping wearable lanterns, or switching to quick light for its convenience. Definitely wearable lanterns as of now, Kasumi. Quick light it's not my style. I like, you know, light to me, the idea of light just emanating from nowhere because you hit a button, just not my thing. If I implemented it, I would add some sort of, you know, like mechanic for it, and that's essentially what we already have with okay, so this one has it. Maybe they didn't include it because these areas aren't nav meshed. Who knows? I guess we'll find out. I have it in my notes. That's what matters. Oh, my eyeballs. You guys' eyes ever just hurt from staring at a screen for too long? Guess it helps when I put on my glasses. Kind of. I don't know. Let's see. Put them on. It just hurts my head after a while because I'm wearing headphones. Also, glasses are cool. Looks like we're going back into the Dark Ages, boys. Got to manually cast all those spells. Most definitely. Or like, I like the idea of kind of like, I think there's some spell mods out there like Apocalypse, which kind of try to address some like group casting type stuff in a balanced way. Quick light equals candlelight spell, why a mod? Because then it's for everyone who doesn't have candlelight. I think it makes it not a spell, which is why I'm actually, ironically, not into it. But then now I feel like I'm just bonoed out. Everything's yellow. Okay, so we got a patch there. Nice. Leave that one. Cool. Nice, nice, nice. That's all good. These types of conflicts are not super fun. IMO. Sometimes. So the funny thing about conflict resolution is that sometimes it's really rote, and sometimes that's cool because it's very zen. You know what I mean? There's like you can throw on a podcast or throw on some music and just kind of zone out. But other times, conflict resolving will be creative in a way. Like a good example would be the NPC edits. Like in that sense, conflict resolving is actually choosing what your NPCs are going to look like. So it's definitely more involved, but it's, you know, it's a nice change of pace versus the more rote kind of repetition. The worst kinds of conflict resolution, the worst records to resolve are the ones that are both boring types of edits, and they're also complex enough and like particular enough that you can't just zone out. Those ones suck because then you have to pay attention and it's boring. Okay, let's see here. Nice. Are we good? Smart cast equals instinctual spells, reflex casting. Those spells you know so well you no longer have to think about it. Totally immersive. I mean, yeah, unfortunately Finn is correct. Plot. The idea of that is fine. It's the implementation. Good folks of Ravenrock. That's interesting. That's a problem, actually. Realistic room rental. So, we got a few things to resolve here. Let me see if there's a patch for this. Let's see here. this might be an issue. Are my PC specs listed anywhere? They were in the bot, but the bot is all donked, and I forgot why. I forgot to fix it, unfortunately. So I'll need to go back through. I swear, I'm just gonna get rid of Streamlabs. I feel like in general, it's kind of iffy. But my spec here you go. You can see I've got a i7 4790K and a 32 gigs of RAM and a GTX 1080. Boom. I don't think I'm gonna have a patch here, so I think I'll have to do it myself. That's okay. Nav Mesh patch likely required for. Let's see, what is this record? Current edit. Include. Nice. Anybody knows how I should configure TextGen to regenerate the textures for US, like which texture size and output formats were used? Fortunately, I don't know, CT. I skipped over TextGen. 790K, run 4, 820K, bottleneck, brother, unite. Yeah, it's getting what's it called? Getting older. I'm surprised by how well these processors have held up, though. They're definitely the best processors that I've ever used in terms of longevity. But it's getting a bit older. And at some point soon. I mean, it tells you you can... The problem is, like, it bottlenecks you in other ways, right? Like, motherboard architecture because of the chip set, or what do they call it? The socket type. And, of course, that also limits you to older RAM. Like, I have 32 gigs of RAM, but it's also... you know, DDR3 and pretty old and slow. Okay, so we'll see how that goes. That's going to be a problem, though. Computers. First time I ever built a computer, I was like 14. If I knew then... I actually feel like that build went pretty well. I don't think I ended up with any super annoying things, right? Like no refusal to boot. No major issues, although I've definitely experienced those. Huh. Missed low long. More Alamite. Yeah, I'm gonna get rid of that. No, thank you. When you resolve nav meshes, don't you view them in CK? How do you know they're gonna work? That's my whole point, Hazard, is that I have my notes here. I'm noting these nav meshes that I'm editing because they'll need resolving in the CK. This is not just a one and done here in xEdit. What was this? Why people think spells should not be silent, saying abracadabra, hocus pocus does not manipulate the fundamental strings of the universe in any way. I don't understand plot. Or I think spells often make a sound when you cast them. In Dungeons and Dragons, they absolutely do in a lot of cases, because you actually do have to say something audible in order to cast them. Obviously, Elder Scrolls has its own rules. Wait, what the H? There you go. And this one's fine. Oh, there it is. The classic Oblivion song. Alright, I'm already tired of wearing these. Some spells are silent. It might be cooler though if more spells were silent. I could feel you there. Like something, even like mage armor. Like, does it have to make a sound that goes, ching? You know? It's like, it'd be kind of cool if it was just like kind of went over you. Because then mages are perhaps more viable for like stealth. Silent spells just make sneak even stronger. I mean, I suppose that's true, Finn. Although, if there's not a good reason for a spell to be loud, I think it makes more sense that it's not. Or, I don't know, like... But magic exists as a specific... Huh. This one's a little different. Why is this? Okay. Magic exists within the framework that the Elder Scrolls universe has established, but I take your meaning for sure. Nav Mesh. Iverstead, why do you... Oh, here we go. Haven't had to do one of those in a while. Good to go there. Saying you could cast silently once the spell is out there, it makes noise. Like, yeah, I mean, that's for me. Like, a fireball is never going to not make noise once it hits. But, I don't know. Well, see, fireball is even actually a little bit different because if you look at destruction magic as like the manifestation of an elemental force, the second that fire is in the world, it probably is making a sound because it's like burning something. But once again, that kind of depends on what the fire that you cast from your hands actually is. Uh-oh. Here's a problem. Let's double check these. Winking skeeper in, bath door. So this one is definitely going to need some conflict resolution, excuse me. Okay. Hold up. What record is this? 889. I knew that clip was coming, Hazard. I knew someone was going to do it. Our Tiger, what's this? This is conflict resolution, baby. Alright, let's see. A mesh patch 4. Which is why smart casting mage coat whatever is totally halal to be silent, or just, I mean, casting it regularly, smart cast or otherwise. You can always add in these missing ones, but it doesn't quite work. So we have something there, but it's not going to be enough. That's all fine. Fine and dandy. Ugh. Ow. Rune of Dampening doesn't make non-illusion spells silent. That sucks. Oh, we run out of music. let's do Morrowind then. You guys want to know the album that I've been listening to a lot lately? Because it's the new M83 album. It's really cool. Especially if you like games. Okay, that one's good. That's all fine. Shed Your Travails is the name of this song. Places an arcane rune on the ground which absorbs all sound generated by nearby cast illusion spells. Yeah, that's not super great. Even if it worked on all the different spells, you could argue it's not exactly fun. You know, like it's just additional steps that you have to take in order to cast something silently. And it's like, why, you know, probably just be more fun to just do it. This is interesting. Pretty sure I just checked this, just making sure. So this Nav Mesh is straight up deleted. Should that be disabled? Maybe Nav Meshes are different, but it's probably okay. Maybe it adds its own. Boom. Let's see. Yeah, I like the idea of apocalypse spells. For the same reason I like the idea of Enai's perk overhauls. They're fun. Add a lot of fun stuff. Huh. I guess it adds its own. Hold on a second. I'm gonna use my new bookmark tool that Hazard was so nice to share. It does. It adds in its own... Or wait, that's weird. Why are there two nav meshes for these locations? Strange. What am I trying to say? Who knows? Who can say? We'll be changing the Requiem perks one day? Maybe. It's something we've talked about. Haha. I'm a little bit worried about these remove interior fog edits. I think on the whole they look better. I'm afraid that it's like that fog that exists in so many cells, interior cells in Skyrim, especially in SE. It looks a little weird. It's like fuzzy. But I'm afraid that things will look too flat without it. I suppose we'll find out. It's not that hard to revert the changes, just annoying. Oh, here we go. Oh, God. What are these? Oh, cool. It's got its own little, like, how to build a bath. So they're furnitures. Okay. I'm guessing it does Keep It Clean also contain recipes that I skipped over? Or that I just wasn't paying attention to? Does not. Weird. Alright. I guess we could put this in. Sure, why not? But I'm gonna note it that we're doing this. Put you there, then you here, and then I'm gonna note that Keep It Clean seems to include its own recipes for soap, baths, integrate to recipe system. Oh, God, I need to stand up. I've been sitting down too much lately. Pardon me. Shit, Mound. I need a vacuum, too. We don't have a working vacuum at the moment. Oh, much better. Give me a second to stretch here, everybody. Oh. Oh, could be for house mount authors or something. Most likely, it's for people, I think, to include their own baths wherever they want, which is cool. I'll just need to integrate it with the recipe system eventually, so I noted that. A month ago, we talked to the perk system of Enderal for future versions of US. Well, that's you're talking about a method of learning perks, Rust. I'm talking about the specific perks added by, like, Enai's stuff. Like the perks that you can learn through whatever learning system we create. Hold up. Stretching. Ah. Oh my god. My hamstrings are very tight. And then that hurts my back. And then that hurts my hips. And it's just a real fun cycle of no stretching. Ow. Nav Mesh tutorial, huh? Is this one of Dark Fox's videos? It is. How to Nav Mesh. Cool. I'll make sure to take a look at that. Vancian magic and Ordinator is kind of OP. It instantly makes you a master of all magic. There's a lot of very OP stuff that if you were to have something work with Requiem, it needs to have, you know, very careful balance consideration. What do we got here? Bits and pieces. Some of these are getting quite a lot. Listen to that music. Beautiful. That's right, Sacroletius likes Nav Mesh. Oh. Hydration check. And that's all good. Wow, keep it clean. Does a lot of work. You wouldn't quite imagine it for a mod that is so seamless and minimal. Oh god. Okay. These start to get... Here's our leveled lists that different vendors are going to draw from. I mean, I'm going to conflict resolve these just to have them conflict resolved, but I'm going to be changing all this shit eventually. Customizing. I want Vancian casting in D&D, let alone in Skyrim. What is Vancian casting? What'd it do? Uh-oh. Oh, wow. So it's got its whole kind of... Oh, these are message boxes. Okay. Well, message boxes are second person for me, so we can change this. But it's like kind of a question of if it's worth the effort. Well, I'm not even gonna bother. I feel clean and attractive. Nice. Oh, this is your own thoughts keep it clean. Okay, so actually we just need to get rid of that. Assuming these are message boxes, which I think they are. I know. These are not. Okay. So this. This one we're gonna revert. Your own thoughts. Message boxes are second person. Corner messages are first. That's the whole shtick. I stink. Magic system inspired by the works of Jack Vance, like the Dying Earth books. You master will span them, sleep for a bit. You memorize a spell, and after you cast it, it's gone. So you memorize again the other day. Oh, so that's like the basic D&D spell casting. Yeah, I kind of prefer, or like, almost from like a world contiguity standpoint, I've always preferred the kind of system that Elder Scrolls implements, right? Where you have a pool of magicka, and it's not as if you forget how to cast a spell. So even, I mean, I guess you could use a different word besides like memorizing spells. That would probably fix it for me. But I definitely prefer the idea of you just, you know, it's like I still know the spell, I just don't have the energy to cast it. Yeah, exactly. It's like I'm relearning a spell and I used it and then I forgot how to use it. Like I bet you it would be much better if they just didn't use the word memorize. Or I mean, maybe it really is supposed to be that, but it's strange to be sure. Like it doesn't make any sense, you know, because it's like, are you being like lobotomized? Like every time you cast a spell, it's like, I know how to cast this, and then blam, it's just like, what? How is it? We just had a yesterday actually. I was playing D&D in our current campaign, and our DM had set up this big ol'. She was trying to give us a combat challenge because she's given us these encounters that we mostly just kind of wipe the floor with. So she wanted to have us fight this really, really difficult creature called a Nightwalker, if any of you are familiar. The problem was that she also gave us a win condition, like kind of in the story, where it was very unlikely we were going to be able to kill the Nightwalker, but we did have the option to banish it if we could sustain a certain spell for like, it was like a whole minute. So, you know, that's 10 rounds of combat. Not easy to do, especially with a creature as large and as powerful as a Nightwalker. But she failed. The Nightwalker was the only creature that we were fighting, and she failed to account for the fact that me and one of the other bards have polymorph. And a Nightwalker is extremely resistant to most types of damage, has extremely high attributes, certain attributes, you know, like strength and constitution and whatever. It's not very smart though. So it had a real hard time resisting our polymorph. And polymorph lasts for an hour. So we polymorphed it, and there were no other monsters to try and break it out of polymorph. So we had all the time in the world, all the time we needed to banish it to the, you know, Yu-Gi-Oh! Shadow Realm or wherever it was going. And our DM, I mean, to her credit, she let us do it. She was just pissed. She was like, no, like she had spent all this time like practicing the encounter and all this stuff. It was really cute. It was still fun from like a player perspective. Reminds me of Sleep to Gain XP mod. You were lobotomized whenever you were awake. Yes. I guess you would justify it as saying like it doesn't really sink in until you've had time to sleep, but it's not a great justification. Sacrilege, I don't like having thousands of spells available. I like preparing them for the day ahead. It makes for that RP during the rest. I think the problem there is like, what's it called? Therein, like, the problem is that there's thousands of spells available. I still don't think it makes sense that, you know, you forget spells. That's the, I mean, I guess it really just depends. You know, it's like someone said before, it's like debating kind of the framework of how magic works within a world. Really depends on knowing that context. But if it is legitimately supposed to be memorization as we understand it, it's a little strange for sure. Oh yeah, so there you go. Prepare. So like preparing a spell, immediately just changing that one word makes it okay, because now it implies that some kind of system where it's like you might still know a spell, but there's something that needs to be done mentally, or there's some mechanism besides just the reagents. Sometimes maybe it is the reagents. There's some mechanism by which, you know, spells cannot be cast unless sufficient preparation is done. In which case, totally chill. Works perfect. That is an interesting system, Rust. The idea of, you know, you having kind of like spell points, and then, you know, possible spells for a day. You know, beginners cost more, but I mean that's also essentially the system that we have in Elder Scrolls, right? Like just think of your magicka as the spell points, and you know, weaker spells do cost less than stronger ones. Where do you find the Dwarven Helmet of the Steam Power ability on Solstheim? I'm not quite sure, mate. I don't even know what you're talking about, really. I'm not super well versed in Solstheim and in Dragonborn. Maybe someone else knows. I should like to level only during a rest. I dislike being able to exploit the leveling up system to get full health, stamina, and magicka during combat. Oh yeah, I mean I don't think it should do. I mean we've talked about this before, but I think the vanilla leveling system as it stands is just. I think that there shouldn't even be overall character level, because I mean I like de-leveled worlds, right, for the most part, so the character's level ceases to be important, and in that sense to me health, magicka, and stamina should just be like skills, like the same way that anything else is. So that way there is no level up in the middle of combat, and then no arbitrary regeneration of your stats. Uh-oh, this is gonna be a big one. That's fine. Boom, baby. As you can see, I look at these records, and I've seen a lot of them before, and I know how much effort we're gonna need to put in to integrate them with Ultimate Skyrim systems. I just try not to think about it right now. This new thing, right, where instead of trying to accomplish every task as I come upon it, I prioritize tasks and restrict myself to them. Like spell research builds on the concept that every spell consists of archetypes. Spells are expressions of the archetypes. Mastery means you know why things work and how to use it. Yeah, or it also fits. The thing is, magicka auto regenerates too easily. Oh, totally. In fact, that's one of the big changes that I plan on doing as well. Sacrilegious is making it work more like the old games, or like Elder Scrolls, or sorry, Morrowind, where magicka is, it can still have regen, it just needs to be vastly reduced, so that they function more almost like the D&D system. So, or like it's referenced in game, right, is like, that was an expensive use of magicka. Like, doesn't a mage like you know not to use ranged magic unless you're sure you'll hit your target or whatever? Like, should have a consequence. But to Plot's point, there's in-universe justification that like spellcasting is this kind of like personal journey where each mage kind of needs to figure out, like, you know, Fireball, I think for the purposes of a game is, you know, Fireball for us is Fireball for everyone else. But I think in universe it's supposed to be more that you know, your Fireball is a bit, it's kind of customized to you, you know, like your Fireball is not so much anyone else's Fireball, which is a fun concept. I like that a lot. I like the idea of like customizing your spells, which is something probably you can do through like perks. And I bet you, I would be surprised if some of Enai's perks didn't try to do things like that, where you get to kind of like customize how your spells behave, maybe even exclusively, right? So like sometimes you'll have to choose between like one perk or another. I don't know if his perks work that way. I just, knowing what I know of Enai's philosophy and like trying to make things engaging and fun, I wouldn't be surprised if Enai did some stuff like that. You guys might know. Not a fan of pure D-level worlds. I mean, enemies can get better too. They don't need to stick at a certain level forever. That said, I also dislike pure level world. Sorry, to be clear, and we've talked about this before, I very much like the idea of enemies getting better too. I don't like leveling enemies according to the player's level. So scaling, I guess, is what I'm saying, versus leveling. Good middle ground. Level up out of combat when you sit down and meditate. Sure, it takes a few hours. I mean, it's like your experience, I think it doesn't matter too much whether you get it at the end of the day versus actively, like if you see your experience go up. I think just from a what you might call a feedback, like game design feedback perspective, having your experience go up as you do things is just stronger, because there's a direct kind of reference point for you to understand that your stuff is going up. But, I mean, I think you can make justifications either way. Like, you know, sometimes we don't learn things, even though we do something, we don't learn it until we kind of have some time to incubate it within ourselves and kind of think about it. So there's justifications either way. Look at all this stuff. Makes spellbooks kind of weird then, but I guess you can explain it as like a guidebook on how to better visualize. You can, but that spellbooks are weird, Master. I think they're spellbooks are, I think, an example of it's Bethesda trying to simplify something to the point where like everyone can engage with spells, but it makes Magic a hell of a lot less interesting, that's for sure. Like, spellbooks are a huge, like, dumb thing to me. Hot take. There are mods that change them to spell research archetypes guides. That's cool. I like the idea of lowering mana regen in Requiem. I think it'll bring a lot of problems for all mages. Well, you can't just lower it and then do nothing else. You have to adjust the balance elsewise. Look at all these. Chunk boost. They get sent to Apocrypha to get ejected elsewhere in Tamriel. Yeah, I mean, that's some sort of justification, which is more than you're given. It's like, why do these just disappear? And why does no one comment on these weird books that everyone can apparently just read to learn a spell, even though that is completely antithetical to everything we've ever learned in the Elder Scrolls about spell learning? But fine, take it as it is. Why does no one ever comment on these disappearing spell books? It almost strikes me as the kind of thing that, like, maybe they decided on it fairly last minute and just, like, kind of added it in. There's, like, no in-game lore, as far as I know, that refers to spellbooks in any way. And there's a lot of in-game lore over the course of the games that refers to spell learning being not that way. So I don't know where that came from. Look at all this. Yeah, Connor, diegesis. There you go. Diegesis is what it's all about, boys and girls. It's a very important element of suspension of disbelief and, dare I say, immersion. What cell edits do we have here? Okay. Okay. There it is, the classic. I added the Standing Stone rebalance to the 4.07 sprint. Don't kill me. I mean, I'm not going to put it in there, Hazard, but you can add it if you want. Oh, if I don't have to patch anything, then maybe. But because bro, there's a certain expectation I think that you set if you start adding new features to something that's supposed to be fossilized. If it's just like so much of a straight improvement that you might as well call it like a bug fix or something, then maybe, but otherwise, no. Everything I'm putting in the sprint either doesn't need patching or provided a patch. I mean, that's not the point, Hazard. We've been over this before. Okay. I suppose you do need fat to tan things, right? Aren't you supposed to need fat? I'm pretty sure. Let me double check. I think I looked this up not long ago. How to tan hides. Fat. It's like illusion redone. It's all good stuff and thoroughly tested. tan a hide with fur. Of salt in water. Okay, so you can use salt and water, or you can use fat. Tanning with fats and oils. Here we go. Nice. Yeah, see, the problem here, this is where, it's kind of pointless to make these decisions now, but I'll make a note here. So what I'm hoping to do, there's a big issue with Skyrim's crafting system as it stands, is that what it really needs is a method of abstraction of certain materials. And what I mean by that is that there are certain materials that can function for the same purpose in a crafting recipe. So using this as an example, let's just say that leather can be tanned with fat or with like salt and water. And let's say that these all occupy the same, or salt, we'll say, for the sake of simplicity. Or oil, because there's cooking oils, right? Let's say that salt, oil, and fat all perform the same role in the process of leather tanning. There should be a way, and you see this in a lot of other games, there should be a way to have the crafting system recognize that any one of these ingredients can serve this purpose. And there's not really a way to do that with a vanilla crafting system. I think there's a way to do that with Complete Alchemy and Cooking Overhaul. I think it introduces like a token system, that does this, or maybe even CCOR. This is something that requires someone like Cryptober, like at her level, to do, but I think she's done that with CACO. And if so, I'm going to try and utilize that mechanic for a lot of other things as well. But because of that, for now, it's not super high priority to make sure, like, we're not figuring that out now. This is what I'm trying to do, is, like, that's not the task that we have right now. The task that we have right now is basic conflict resolution. So that's what we're sticking to. Materials have tags and recipes, and use those tags to craft instead of the actual items, perhaps. Yeah, more or less. I mean, you still get to, you have to be able to choose what item gets utilized for that purpose, but just the idea that, if you have multiple types of items, or it's like when cooking, like a simple answer would be, let's assume that red apples and green apples are interchangeable within a certain apple pie recipe. As it stands now, you need 2 separate recipes in Skyrim's crafting system. You need one for green apples and one for, red apples. And it just sucks. And then if you have any other ingredients in that recipe that is also, like, kind of, can also be fulfilled by multiple different items, then it's, like, permutative. So, like, let's say that honey and sugar can both be used interchangeably in this apple pie recipe. So now we need a separate recipe for one using green apple and sugar, green apple and honey, and then you need one for red apple and sugar and red apple and honey. Those are 4 different recipes that you need. And of course, if you add another ingredient, and that's assuming that there's only 2 different things that can serve each of these problems. Or like this is, if you play Requiem, Bestial Stew is this way, where like in Hunterborn, there's like, I think, several different hearts that you can use for Bestial Stew, but you need a separate recipe for each one. And it's just, it sucks. Whereas, like, it should just be heart, I guess. Right? Oh, yeah. See, wolf heart issue. There's 2 different wolf hearts in the game. I mean, there's not supposed to be 2 different wolf hearts, but you're also supposed to be able to use a wolf heart, a mammoth heart, a bear heart, or, like, several different types of hearts. And it just doesn't. Or, like, animal fat. Like, animal fat is made into one item. Just called animal fat, instead of, I believe, like, Complete Alchemy and Cooking Overhaul has different types of fats per, thing that you kill. So, like, wolf fat is different from rabbit fat, which, like, only really makes sense in a world like Tamriel, right? Where they can have, like, different kind of magical properties. It's certainly more interesting, but it's amalgamated as animal fat in Hunterborn for the sake of simplicity versus recipes. And if you had a like a token system, or like something like Cataclysm uses, I mean, all you need is a list of items that the game can check for to serve this purpose. Or like if you wanted to use it for something like tools, right? Like let's say you needed a cutting tool to perform a certain recipe. There's so many different items that could register as a cutting tool, right? And you just need to have one of them. It's much cooler. It's much more realistic and interesting. IMO. Soups and stews. Okay, so here's a perfect example. Sort of. I mean, this is a Hunterborn, this expansion. This is crazy. But essentially what they've tried to do here is using the existing framework for crafting. The author of Hunterborn, or someone else, or whoever it was, created almost like a Breath of the Wild style cooking system, which, I mean, that's one of the best cooking systems in a game I've ever seen. You just cook, it's like cooking, how it actually is in real life. You put stuff together, you cook it, and you see what happens. Sort of, you know, it's like there's different methods of cooking, of course, but the ingredients themselves, you're not restricted on what you can put in. And this tries to approximate that. So it's, if you have leeks, potatoes, and mushrooms, you can make a leek, potato, and mushroom soup if you want. But to do this, there has to be a specifically created recipe for every permutation of ingredients, which is just, from an implementation efficiency standpoint, it's an absolute nightmare. Absolute nightmare. You can look at this. Look how many records they had to make. This is like how our crafting system was. This is like, it's akin to the amount of recipes that I had to make for just, you know, a bunch of bullshit. But this is exclusively food and like soups. It's nuts. I'm still scrolling. How many records is this? We'll find out. Stews, here. Let's go all the way down. I'm still, and now I'm scrolling fast. I'm holding control. Let's see how many. Whoop. 5,500. 5,500 recipes in this alone. Nuts. Or those were items that you can make, so the recipes might actually be even more. Oh yeah, see, because here's like permutations. This is what I'm talking about. It's apple 0, apple 1. Oh man, so there's probably going to be even more of these. Yeah, you can see some of them. Oh my god, dude. This is going to be crazy. Let's see how many. Come on. How many? 24,000. Almost 25. More than half if you're rounding up. That's nuts. See, because look, A, B, C, D, E, E, F. They're having to account for every single permutation of these ingredients. It's just, it's not a good way to design your crafting system. Skyrim's, I mean, it's like they intended it to be simplistic, but then you have these poor modders who are trying to work within the framework of the system. And this was like when we did the crafting overhaul, right? We have to work within this framework, more or less, that is just hell to do anything like this. I can't believe they actually went and did it. This is incredible, frankly. Hopefully we can implement a system that, you know, like, so there are ways to get around something like this, right? Like building out a unified system that works in the way I described before. The problem with modding as it kind of stands is that most mods are kind of siloed and almost intended to just kind of work themselves standalone, like within themselves. One of the benefits of these kind of mod lists and stuff that we have now, like what Ultimate Skyrim does and other things like it, is that we can have mods like see each other, because everyone's going to have the same baseline install, so that allows you to implement some of these like wider overarching systems to incorporate what every mod is trying to do in the best possible way. Because otherwise you just end up with something like this, where it's like, it's fine, I'm sure, enough. It's probably not the best, like, from the user's perspective in the game, but it's not bad, you know what I mean? Especially when it's limited to having the food items in your inventory. But from an implementation standpoint on the back end, it's an absolute nightmare. Hunting in Skyrim. A lot to it. This is one that I'm excited to kind of dig into. So I've not really done it. Nord Hero Arrow. That's fine. If you want to have some fun, if anyone's comfortable in xEdit, it's really fun to dig into the crafting recipes that are in Skyrim LE. It's rough. Probably a faster way would be scripted crafting that checks for certain items on recipe selected from a container where you put the things you want to cook. You could. To me, just the token system that I'm describing, I feel like would solve so many of these problems. There just needs to be a way for, you know... I mean, I guess that for cooking specifically, that could be true, Russ. That's not a bad way of doing it. Checks for certain items on recipe selected. In the container, you put the things you want to cook. I mean, it'll just use your inventory as a container in that instance. There's a lot of stuff. Is the prophecy fulfilled? No, darkened depths. Oh, Morrowind. Conflict resolution. It's a good song too. I hope Jeremy Soule actually isn't like a huge creeper. Kind of seems like he is. Creeper might actually be putting it lightly. But I know that, I mean, those allegations came out and they were pretty convincing. And then also, Elder Scrolls doesn't, or Bethesda doesn't seem to work with them anymore. So, you know, kind of, I mean, you can't, I suppose, guarantee the case. Oh yeah, oh, Chris Avallone, that one was less surprising to me. Still sucks for sure, but like, he had a kind of a reputation. And I feel like if you read between the lines, and like when he made that one post a while back where it was like, everyone's so mean to me, like, kind of thing, I'm like, well, I mean, maybe, like, without knowing the circumstances, you know, we can't really judge, but it's that old adage of like, if it smells like shit everywhere you go, you know. But of course, you know, my full admission, I wasn't there, so I don't know. Don't meet your heroes, as they say. I mean, everyone's human. Everyone makes mistakes, but sometimes those mistakes are, frankly, just, I mean, it's up to everyone to determine what is forgivable to them or whatever. Or like, and sometimes there's just not, you know? Looks like Ion Zur is getting the music duties for TS6. Interesting. He was like, I couldn't remember his name, but Blades was what I was thinking of when I was like, oh, it seems like they're using someone different for the music now. Oh, hunting in Skyrim, building out these beautiful environments. Look at all this stuff. Stuff. No lockpicking tree is useless. You can open master locks at level 15 lockpicking. Oh, yeah. It's like in Oblivion, too. It was even worse in Oblivion. I felt like you could just open... There was like a... Once you knew the trick to how the lockpicks worked, you could open anything. No, no skill, no perks required, no nothing. Oh, this is the prophecy fulfilled. This is the song that plays when you beat Morrowind. You get the ending cutscene. I think it's Azura talking to you. Who is it? She says, "You're the super cool Nerevarine, and you did it. You beat Dagoth in a DDR contest and stole all his pizza, just as the prophecy predicted." Guess you're my scroll wheel. Could use a bit of WD-40. Like the lockpicking mechanic of Kingdom Come's realistic, you may know how to open a farm door with a chest when you need time training. Oh, interesting. So you're learning the locks themselves. I don't even remember. I use them, I love it. Yeah, which is why I play Old Sky, not vanilla. Oh, plot. Old Sky sucks. Oh, well, that's fine. I missed. Really need to read Dune. It's one of those things that I've always meant to do. One of those books that I've wanted to read. Oh my god. Look at all this. I wonder how these are meant to work together. Hunterborn and Hunting in Skyrim. Same as US, it didn't even let you try. I mean, that's how it sorta works, but I suppose it does. This is... I don't care about forwarding that change. Oh yeah, Dune is the... It's like a... I mean, a classic is a good way of putting it. I feel like maybe that one of the reasons why I haven't read it myself is because I feel like I'm just so already like aware of like the story from pop culture exposure that there's kind of that party that feels like, well, what am I really missing by like not reading it directly? But of course you're missing a lot. And just the act of reading a story is so personal. Anyway. It's a lot of stuff. I had no idea that this mod was so extensive. Seeing Game of Thrones on HBO make it not worth reading the books. Oh, I mean, I don't know if that's quite the same. It's a big difference. I've never even seen the Dune movie all the way through, so I'm not talking about me having seen the movie and decided that that's not enough. I mean, like, hearing about the book through popular culture, but of course it is still not the same. But I mean, Game of Thrones show versus book is like, they might as well be two completely separate IPs after a certain point. Okay. Oh boy. Oh. These I'm generally gonna make worth more. Oh, why is that so heavy? Bear pelt. How much does a bear pelt weigh? It's a lot, right? So that makes sense, but the problem is, like, from a value perspective, I think in general, things seem to be a lot more valuable. Pelts need to be a lot more valuable. Well, once again, maybe this is not the time to try and decide balance. As long as Season 8 would be better in the books. Yeah, I think so. I mean, Season 5, 6, 7, 8, I'm pretty sure are going to be... I mean, now, if you're George R. R. Martin, you have a framework of what not to do, but I don't think that he would do that anyway. Pretty good writer. Ow. Yeah, subverting expectations is not the same... Or, I mean, I guess it is the same as... Or, like, you're still subverting expectations, but it's like a method of subverting expectations in which expectations are subverted because what's happening is so stupid that no one saw that, or no one anticipated that they could have possibly done something like this. It's like, I'm subverting your expectations by writing a story that no one anticipated because it's really dumb and everyone thought there's no way they'd do that. I guess that's fine. I mean, that's how long sieges usually take, you know? Half a minute. Half a second. Fine. We run out of music again. We did. Oblivion it goes. These are all going to need some adjustments, but whatever. I can worry about that later. Wait just a darn tootin' minute here. Oops. We all had them for TSV. Subverted expectations? Or expectations? Wolf Pelt. All mods locked to Creation Club. That would sure be something. I still don't think they would try and do that, but I don't know. Kind of hard to say nowadays, isn't it? You know what? I'm just gonna do this. Kind of hard to say what they would or would not do. Really just like the current fad of subverting expectations, aka intentionally disappointing. Well, that's not what subverting expectations is supposed to be. Subverting expectations is just a shorthand for, you know, writing an unpredictable story. But it's like, it's the implication I think is still, or the baseline assumption is that you're not going to write a story that sucks. You know what I mean? Or that by virtue of the expectations it subverts, it's less enjoyable because the method by which it does that is lame. But of course, I don't think anyone ever sets out to write a unsatisfying story. They just weren't able to write a satisfying one. Hoping Obsidian Entertainment's Avowed will light a fire under Bethesda. We'll see. Praxis, to be honest, I don't really... I'll believe it when I see it, you know? Let's build a climax and let's destroy all that just to get that gotcha moment. But I think, again, I think that what we classify, or what you classify as a gotcha moment, I think is supposed to be, it's what their idea of the climax was. That's what they thought would make the most engaging climax within their story. They just happen to be not great storytellers. At least not in the context of the story that they were trying to tell, or as everyone else like interpreted it. I was hoping Avowed is good. PoE was pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, I didn't play Pillars myself, so I can't say for sure kind of how it was, but it just seems like everything Obsidian does is just like okay, like at this point, like nothing is ever, you know, exemplary. Everything is always just kind of a lot of what we've already seen put together in a way that is like not so bad, you know, but it's not phenomenal by any means. Like Outer Worlds, Outer Worlds, the only time I really had hope for it was when it first was announced. The more I saw about it, the more I just thought, like, this looks like it's gonna be pretty lame. Like, it's gonna have maybe parts that are cool, but the overarching, like, the whole sum of its parts argument, it's gonna be worse than the sum of its parts. And I feel like that's what happened, with allowing, once again, that I didn't play through it myself, so I'm just going off of what people said. And, you know, sometimes people have different opinions than I end up. Like, I remember I just finished watching One Punch Man Season 2, and he's sick anime. Hey, Ron, how you doing? Sick anime fans out there. Everyone's like, One Punch Man Season 2 is so bad. And I watched it, and I was like, I didn't think it was that bad. I thought it was pretty enjoyable still. So, I don't know. Maybe we all need to play everything before we're allowed to have an opinion on it. They think that gotcha, didn't see that coming, did you moment is something fresh and interesting. Well, it's almost always pretty bad. Yeah, I mean, it can be. If it doesn't make sense, that's like, if it feels arbitrary, like the moment only exists for the purpose of gotcha, like, didn't see that coming, then yeah, definitely. But, like, once again, like, subverting expectations for the sake of it, I don't think is supposed to be the intention of the mechanic, the storytelling mechanic. Like, subverting expectations is like a, you know, it's what's supposed to happen because you've written a very interesting story that plays with people's expectations in an enjoyable and satisfying way. Like KOTOR 2 and FNV, PoE is decently playable finish. Right, it's like we said this in the last stream. It's Obsidian does great when they have an existing platform to work on top of. So for something like KOTOR, they already have the engine to work with, you know, from KOTOR 1. With Fallout New Vegas, they already have, you know, the Bethesda's engine to work with. Those are pretty great. And that could just be because that's how long it takes and how difficult it is to write, you know, really interesting, enjoyable worlds. Like, it takes, if you have to spend any of that time maybe on building out the engine or like the technology for your game, you don't have time to do that kind of work or something. I don't know. Maybe it was like they just didn't have the time because of a different reason, like project management or something. I don't, without knowing, there's just so, when you have any sort of initiative that requires this many people to work together to create one cohesive end product, it can just go wrong in a million ways. There's so many different types of obstacles. Without knowing more about like the development, it's impossible to say what resulted in us getting, you know, what we got. But all I know is that it seems like everything Obsidian's produced has nothing's really knocked it out of the park, you know, which makes it more difficult for me personally to get real excited. But that can be an asset sometimes. You know, like if someone kind of underestimates your work, sometimes it can be even easier to knock them out of the park. Or if you create something that's like absolutely amazing, it really impacts them, you know? It's about set in the Pillars world, so it's pretty neat. Yeah, I thought that was cool. Like, I feel like that kind of iteration is what you need in order to start really like building something interesting, right? Like Fallout, I think one of the big reasons why New Vegas is so good is because it has this crazy established setting to work from, right? There's just so much to play with there as a writer. But when you are trying to create your own world and then also create a game within that world all in one go, you know, with something like Pillars, it's not easy. Like, world building takes time of its own, and all that time comes from, you know, development or as part of development. Problem is that it appears so generic on the surface. You dig deeper, it's amazing, it has a lot of depth from a story perspective. Things are actually quite dark. Yeah, and that's always tough too, right? Like, how do you make, like, some parts of an engaging world are not, like, that can be hard to signpost visually, you know, and video games are kind of a visual medium, at least when it comes to like showing them off, you know, like how do you show off deep lore that's really cool that a lot of people would like. when it's unfortunately wrapped in what appears to be a generally, generic package. Whoops, I almost missed that one. See? That's why you gotta be careful. Love to see a series movie about Revan. Oh, for sure. I mean, KOTOR is great. I didn't play to the end of the second one. Oh, or the first one, actually, now that I mention it. But what I did experience was really, really cool. Biggest obstacle is people's opinions as of now. If we see something negative about something, we all trend to think it's worse. People hated Kingdom Come for its combat. For me, it was awesome because it was hard and demanding. Yeah, I mean, could be. I mean, the combat gets really easy in Kingdom Come, but I mean, it's like there. You could argue that Kingdom Come, at least for me, and once again, I didn't beat it, but what I enjoyed of the parts that I played, I thought the story was really good. I thought it was engaging from at least where I got up to. I don't know how it ends. And there's a lot of games by which or for which I should say, some of the mechanics are just mechanisms to contextualize the story. But the Uncharted games are a good example of that, right? Where it's almost like what they're writing is an interactive movie. And the mechanics themselves, I mean, they can be cool, but they're nothing to write home about. They're fairly generic. I mean, Last of Us was a bit better. I haven't played the second one yet, but the first one, I thought the survival gameplay and the stealth elements were pretty cool, if a bit wonky at times, to where it didn't feel, the game was worse for having the combat. But it's clearly not the point of the game, you know what I mean? And then you can start asking the question of if that's the case, why even include the combat? Why even include the game part? Why not just make a story? And publish it some other way. But I don't know. There's also, I mean, at least with the first Last of Us, I think there was something to be said about the brutality of it, and the fact that you had to do it as the player. That was pretty cool. Almost that in and of itself justified the existence of it as a game versus a movie to me. Just some of the killing in that game is so brutal that you almost get it, or at least when I was playing it, I got a sense of damn, I would not survive in a zombie apocalypse or whatever, because I just feel I wouldn't be able to do this stuff. I'd be the one killed because I don't have the stones to kill other people in this way. That it just kind of is a requirement for you to continue living in this world. What's going on here? Landscape, huh? Let's see, what is this? Problem with KCD is it presents itself as a historical game while engaging in historical revisionism. What were the revision elements of it? CT. The audio of the music or my audio, Ron? The music's pretty low. I can turn it up a bit. There it is. My output. I tried moving this closer to my mouth. During that time period, mass amount of Bohemia's population was Roma, what people like to call gypsies. People working in modding KCD for the event 30 Years War is not represented in game. Oh, was that the whole racial controversy that people hit it with? And then didn't the game director say some stuff about these frickin' SJWs in my games? That's probably not a fair representation of either side. But I mean, yeah, if your goal is to represent something as historically accurate and you ignore parts of the setting, and it's an established setting with factual kind of stuff, then yeah, I could see that being a problem. Oh boy. You guys see what fun conflict resolution is? It's great. Use generic mod tool to tell a story. I do not think it's very moddable as the game itself is a story presentation. Skyrim, you create your own story. Oh yeah, I mean Skyrim, it's like you guys just said, it exists in its best form as a platform for modding. And in that sense, it's actually really good. I think that Skyrim actually, weirdly, is I think one of the reasons why it's become Bethesda's one of their best games ever is because it is a really solid platform for modding as a world. It's got enough of, like, if you guys are interested in like world building and storytelling and all that kind of stuff, there's kind of certain elements that you need to make an interesting world. There's a really good Mr. B-Tongue video that I'm thinking of when I make these points, that talks about, you know, elements that your world needs to make it feel like a real place. Like, just as an example, things like class conflict or first of all, conflict of some kind, because there's always conflict. But kind of societal conflicts, maybe things like, you know, like in Skyrim, there's clear kind of differentiations between the haves and the have-nots. There's racial tensions. There's a civil war that's ongoing that, you know, ties into these tensions and these kind of elements that I'm talking about. So like it nails most of the important kind of world building elements, even if it doesn't expand on these elements super well by default. But that's where mods can kind of come in and do it. And so it works really well as a platform, like in that way. Some carries in itself the elements of what people call emergent storytelling. It's not to the extent of Daggerfall. Have you seen Indigo Gaming's essay about The Promise? Yes, I have seen that. It's really good. I thought it was a lot of fun. It's, I don't know, I can't remember what the thesis was of like the promise that was unfulfilled necessarily. I suppose it's just that, you know, we went more Todd Howard with the successive games after Morrowind versus like Julian LeFay and Todd Peterson, right? Like, I'm far more interested in the sort of next game that Julian LeFay would have made because of their systemic interactions and dynamic, I guess, emergent interactions, which is what I've tried to bring to Skyrim. Because that's, you know, storytelling is like building out a world where a bunch of interesting things can happen is a great way to, I mean, that's essentially what Dungeons and Dragons kind of is. And so like this kind of dynamic interaction between the player and the world is very interesting to me. It's kind of the types of games that I'm interested in nowadays. Oh yeah, no, I'm well familiar with Once Lost. I actually applied for a job there when I found out that they were when they had first built out the studio. Oh well, that didn't pan out, but you know, maybe one day. Let's see here. Oh my god, wait. Okay, that's fine. I'm actually making decent progress on stream today. Boom, boom. I don't know what it would be like with me working there. It's been a long time since I worked for anyone. Not always the easiest employee, I think, because, well, it depends. Now I'd be a lot better, I think, versus when I was younger and I, thought that I knew everything. Sometimes I still do, though, which, like, for better, I'm kind of the type of person to where I kind of like, I like to do things my own way, for better or for worse. That's probably my biggest weakness as an employee. Because sometimes you just kind of, you need to know what you don't know and then shut up. And that's, I'd like to think I'm better at it now. But that was always my biggest problem as an employee, I'd say, if I'm being honest. Okay, actually. Well, why not? Might as well reconcile these. The other thing is I just, I think I have some decent ideas for games, but I don't know exactly what I would necessarily bring to the table, like what my role would be that they would need, because I'm not a particularly strong programmer. I'm an okay systems designer, or like designer of how things should work, but the implementation sometimes it escapes me. So I don't know, if it were me and it depends on what they needed, of course, but there would be a lot of reasons to not hire me depending on what they needed at the time. Like if you need like just core developers who can, and it seems like between Julian and Todd, Julian especially, he thinks like a systems designer. He's a programmer already, but I think programmers often do think like systems designers. And I think that's probably my strongest skill is coming up with good ideas as to how things should work in a game, at least theoretically. But how much is that worth when you already have someone like Julian, who not only thinks, I think, similarly, but also has a crazy pedigree of games that he's actually produced. Whereas, I have Ultimate Skyrim. Grave Op, playing Ultimate Skyrim fresh installed, 33 hours, 0 crashes. Thank you for the compliment, Grave Op. I'm glad you're enjoying yourself. Todd and email make my blood boil sometimes. Oh yeah. I think Todd has a lot of good ideas. But clearly he's geared towards accessibility in terms of what he feels should go into the games now. But even like Morrowind, I think there were a lot of elements of Morrowind that were him that worked. But yeah, it's kind of like what their priorities are now and the kind of games that they're interested in making. As of now, it seems, are less the kind of games that I'm interested in making. That's why Once Lost is such a cool prospect to me. I really hope that it goes well for them. Not to mention, I think a lot of people, or what's a good way of putting this? It doesn't seem like, at least from the sides that we've been presented, that Julian was treated super well. It is hard to say what happened definitively, because, we really do only have his side of things, and it's not like Todd has ever spoken much about the falling out, as you might characterize it. But I just, I think he was very instrumental in building out a lot of what makes the Elder Scrolls great, and it would be cool to see him have the ability to capitalize on that. Todd an email. I thought he didn't do a lot. You talking about Todd, or you talking about Julian? CT. Julian, from what we understand, or at least as it was presented by Indigo's documentary, was pretty sidelined for Morrowind. General programs tend to be too narrow on the how and blind to the why. It's a cliche, but too common. Yeah, that would be a... that would be accurate, at least based on my understanding, and that's... I feel like I could serve almost as I could be like a client partner between like programmers and like more pie in the sky thinkers, perhaps. Like I know enough about programming to understand what an implementation might look like, even if I can't do it myself. But I also tend to think more in terms of ideas. Hazard can tell you that, and most of the team. I'm very like, what if things worked like this? And I mean, a lot of the time, because we're working with a pre-existing platform like Skyrim, a lot of my ideas are not necessarily possible or they're difficult to implement. But I also try to think in terms of what could happen with the platform that we have. Yeah, so my understanding is that Todd did he did influence Morrowind a fair bit, especially by the end. And that Julian was kind of sidelined. But, exactly who did what. Like, the reason that Morrowind is the size that it is definitely Todd. Which I think a lot of people consider not good. But, of course, we know what Morrowind was because we have it. It's hard to say what, a Julian LeFay version of Morrowind might have looked like. All we have is kind of his ideas and what he says he wanted to do with it. And given the pedigree of Daggerfall being as amazing as it was, there is very strong odds that, Julian's version of Morrowind would have been even better than what we got. But I think Morrowind's really cool. There's a lot of kind of stuff that is still classic RPG that's in Morrowind, like hand-placed items and, a mostly de-leveled world and like exploration-focused mechanics that aren't hyper-accessible to the point of dumbing down the experience. And I still think a lot of that was Todd. Yeah, that documentary is really good. Morrowind was a last-ditch effort from what I've seen in documentaries and making a video. Oh yeah, it was definitely like a sink or swim moment for the studio. It was like either this is good and we make money off of it, or we're done. Sometimes that can be those kinds of circumstances can produce the best stuff, or can produce really good stuff. Guys, we are cranking through. Where are we at? Arbok. New filter. So we are... Where is it at? We haven't gotten here yet. Keep it clean, Hunterborn. Arbok. Not bad. Not bad. World History Mara. Case in point, Iron Man. You mean Iron Man the character or Iron Man the movie? Oral History of Morrowind article's a good read too. I haven't seen that one. Yeah, I'm in the Once Lost Games Discord. Someone actually sent me mentioned me one time because they saw that I was in there. It was like, hey, I like Ultimate Skyrim. And I was like, hey. The movie, MCU is almost done. That's funny. I didn't know that. You could also, you could argue, it's true for the character as well, right? Like, Tony Stark built this in a cave with a box of scraps. Kind of, you make do with what you have. Gambled basically everything to put that on. It's really good. I remember really enjoying Iron Man. I remember watching that and thinking, wow, this feels like a different type of thing, Love how Kirkbride tricked Todd into approving weird things by making his first concept art insane weird, and then was rejected, brought the design he wanted Todd, and go, oh, much better. That's like the South Park strategy, right? Like, they would always put some joke into their episodes that was just way too beyond the pale. Like, there's no way this is getting approved by the FCC. But they knew that, and they planned for that to be the case so that they could get all the other stuff that they wanted in there, because it looked tamer by comparison. It's really funny. Loot and degradation. That's all fine. We're not going to use these anyway. Bing, bang, boom. Dialogue, branch, object, effect, faction. Form ID list, global, message, magic effect, perk, quest. Dynamic things. See, most of these should be proprietary. I'm hoping that we've moved through most of the biggest plugins that'll be the most annoying and large as tasks. How is it already 2:30? My god. Time flies. I will be signing off at 3. So if there's anything you guys would like to see or anything you want me to do, to elaborate on, I promise that I'm going to develop a more concise means of sharing development progress. The reason I've been doing these streams is just because it's a way to kind of continue generating video content and connecting with you guys. but I do recognize that it's probably not the best way to learn about kind of the newest stuff or the ideas of the build and so on and so forth. So I'll probably be moving back to written development manifestos, which I'll post for everyone to look at on Patreon. You won't have to be a patron to read them. Just that's probably where I'm gonna post them. It's hard to figure out what to do with the streams necessarily. I feel like showing off mods is fun. I mean, the obvious choice for streams is once we actually have a game to play, right? Like a completed version of Ultimate Skyrim that we can go through, and like playtesting makes for good stream content probably. I don't know how much something like this does, like conflict resolution. Okay, it's probably fine to let it overwrite. This is what I like to see. No conflicts, just proprietary records. Spell research, this is gonna be one. We good. Oh. You check it out and learn. Sometimes I know what is going on and join the chat. I feel you. Streams are more community building than show-offs, like them. Yeah, I feel you. It's the interaction element, you know what I mean? It's like it doesn't have to be about Skyrim, it doesn't have to be about whatever. It's just getting to interact with you guys, to me, is the biggest pull of the streams, or it's the biggest value that they generate. I just think that it's, as of now, you know, I'm trying to have the streams fill a type of value that they don't necessarily. Like, for people who like watching my Let's Plays and stuff on YouTube, the streams aren't great because they're not that, you know. But for the people who like following the development, like interacting with me, I imagine they have some value. It's just a question of delivering in the best possible way and figuring out what's worth kind of doing, because I also have limited time, you know. One of the this has been probably like the most interesting element of building Ultimate Skyrim has been the combination of the development along with all the other stuff you have to do in a day. Just, you know, community interaction, like managing your kind of presence, I guess you would say. It's, or like, I don't know, it's kind of a strange, it's just like all the different elements of like I guess having like a business, so to speak, or having like a project that you need to, you know, like any indie developer does what they do, you know, they develop the game, they have to market the game, they have to do all this different stuff. And you can't really afford to hire anybody to do it. And frankly, it's good experience. I feel like people should know how to do this kind of thing. But yeah, you're also like the PR manager and those types of things. Hey, Rural, how you doing? What am I looking at here? Oh, okay, that's fine, actually. Because that patch should be allowed to overwrite those. Sorry, book patch, blah, blah, blah. If you're going to end soon, could you check AH hotkeys and alternative SmartCast? Check them may have the same problem. I don't think it does, Rust, but I can look at it. Let's see. Armor sets. Struck by Lieutenant Shot power configuration. Oh, auto-casting spells. Oh, I see what you're talking about now. Hey, Inigo, how you doing? Just about to wrap up. Just been doing some conflict resolution. It's nice I'm starting a master's degree in game design come August 24th, so I might be slightly biased. I feel you. It's probably most interesting to people who are interested in game design and, like, development, versus people who are interested in the gameplay, because there's obviously not a whole lot of gameplay in these streams. Let's see. And did I miss another stream? More or less. I always start at noon on Fridays. That's what I've been doing anyway. Oh, there's the song. The infamous song. Oh yeah, chain together equip sets that are executed from a single key press. Shout Unrelenting Force, cast Oak Flesh, launch Fireball, Ice Spike, drink Magic Potion, launch Lightning Bolt. Well, so I don't necessarily think that's a problem if you can, like, as long as there's a resource usage, you know what I mean? It's just like, I think SmartCast, some of the biggest problems with it is that it bypasses actual mechanics, right? Like, it doesn't break you out of invisibility or whatever. So I don't know. I mean, like, if it makes it less tedious, you know, like, that's not a problem. Yes, I am on the West Coast. California, baby. Los Angeles. Born and bred. Los Dodgers. You guys see any Dodgers fans or sports fans, baseball fans out there? I'm not like a huge baseball fan, but you know, I follow the Dodgers tangentially, and I have a lot of friends who do, so they always tell me what's going on. Wow. Where we just played the Astros, right? And for those of you who don't know, the Astros were caught in a cheating scandal last year where it was revealed they had been telegraphing pitches using audible cues. So, their World Series win, I guess, isn't revoked, which is kind of questionable to me. But, I mean, I'm sure it's a complicated kind of thing to consider. But everyone's like, you know, fuck the Astros. And specifically, the Astros beat us in the World Series using this cheat. And our pitcher just, like, pegged a bunch of the batters or the team members of the Astros. And it almost started a fight. But it's like, you know, what do you think is going to happen, you know? You cheated. Everyone hates you. So, I guess you make your bed, you got to lie in it. I don't think people should be, like, tremendously hurt, you know what I mean? And, I mean, as long as you don't hit someone in, like, the face or whatever with your 92-mile-an-hour fastball, but, like, get pegged in the shoulder or something, like, all right. I think you're kind of getting what's coming to you a little bit. Tell that to the Patriots. Oh, I'm sure. Patriots, what is it? The Yankees of football, as I've heard it expressed. That's another thing where, like, I really like football, but you know, I don't follow it closely enough to be able to, like, meaningfully participate in fantasy leagues. All my friends from college are in a league together, and every year we travel somewhere for the draft. Just as, like, a fun weekend, right? But this year, I don't know. Yeah, no headshots. That's a no-no. Makes sense. I saw this. I don't know. This is not really the same thing at all. But so when I used to play baseball as a child, this just made it, like, pop into my head. But one time, there was a kid. There was a tournament. So you know how, like, in tournaments you have games spread out throughout the day, and you kind of just watch other games and hang out in between. I was watching a game where a kid missed a pop fly, and then it just brained him, like, right between his eyes, and we were all like, oh, like, yeah, and then they eventually get up to go off. Yes, I mean American football, not actual football. Not sure if it's just me, the music kind of overpowers your voice. Oh man, well, I turned it up, now I gotta turn it back down again. Probably the problem is, like, these songs are not equally loud. Okay, well, I mean, here's the autocast part. Spells me dual cast and place in the left and right hand. Huh. So it doesn't seem quite as exploitative as SmartCast, but maybe it is, and we just need to kind of play around with it, right? But I am leaning into hotkeys as like a better control alternative. So we'll see. We'll check it out. Anything else you guys would like me to take a look at? Oh, here's something that's kind of fun. Here, let me jump through here just to make sure we're chilling. Okay. You know what? I'm going to use Hazard's wonderful bookmarking tool. Save. Is there any kind of visual feedback? Or, I mean, I guess kind of visual. It did something there, but, like, notation that you've made a bookmark. That would be nice. Yes, there should still be controller options, Ron. It's going to be simple enough. Definitely simpler compared to what I tried to do with the first controller builds for LE. It just, like, trying to use eye-equipped cyclers. Trying to use cyclers at all, I'm doing away with. So we're probably going to go back to, pause favorites menus and just kind of give people the time that they need to make whatever moves they're trying to make. And just kind of providing other things like the easy wheels for, letting people do stuff. Gamepad plus will probably still be in there, absolutely, just because it's like an enhancement. But you won't really have to be... I think the biggest problem with our previous kind of controller builds, and really arguably the problem with the main builds as well, is that there's too many things in Skyrim to rely on cyclers, and there's too many things even to rely on unpaused favorites menus, I think. It's a nice idea, but, Skyrim isn't Dark Souls. I think that Skyrim Souls, like unpaused menus, work really well for things like inventory management, which you could argue like need to be kind of real time. But favorites menus, I think comparatively, are intended to just give you all the resources that you have available, like in a fight. And if it were real life, like I wouldn't need to, in order to use the spell that I want to use, for example, like if I'm a real character in Skyrim, I don't need to go to a menu that is across my face and then select the spell that I want to use to my hand. I would just use it, you know what I mean? So the pausing the favorites menu, I think, is a good way to abstract the control issues that just they exist. They're necessitated by it being a video game versus like you in a world, you know what I mean? I think Skyrim Souls had a way to slow time on inventory, but didn't make it work. It does. But to me, it's like, I don't care how much you slow. If you slow time versus stop time in the favorites menu, I think the problem still exists. Where, like, I don't know, maybe you could slow it for a nice effect so that it's like really slow and it feels like it's not completely stopping the game. Like, that might feel nice. I'm not quite sure. But I think players need to be allowed to use their favorites menus freely, in a way that doesn't require them to scramble to get the thing that they want. I've seen a YouTuber using that with US the other day. Time slows down instead of stopping. That might be a worthwhile compromise. Gamepads try to play that Dark Souls, Star Wars game. Bloody constant gamepad, clickfest combination trash. Wow. See, even so, like Dark Souls, right? Dark Souls is about the best example of a cycler-based equipment solution that I've seen. It's still not great because cyclers aren't great. Dark Souls has some things going for it, which is, one, it's instantaneous. So, you're cycling through options in your little gamepad menu, and it's cycling through immediately. The second you press the button, you go to your next weapon or whatever, and the animation of pulling out your weapon, it's after you've already selected the thing. So you could theoretically miss the thing that you're going for and then cycle back around to it, which is a big problem why cyclers kind of suck. But the instantaneousness of the button presses is what allows it to work, I think. And then the other thing is that the number of things that you can cycle through in a game like Dark Souls is extremely limited. It's limited to like 3 or 5 things per queue, which even 5 can feel like a lot, with consumable items, like, not remembering if you put your Estus flask on slot 1 or slot 3 or whatever, right? Or like where your next item is, and then missing it and having to cycle back through to it is already not great, but it's at least semi-serviceable when there's not that many items to get through. You know what I mean? Compare that to a game like Skyrim, and the problem is much more exacerbated, because in Skyrim, there's like dozens, if not hundreds, of things that you could need to cycle through, especially if you're a spellcaster. Spellcasters, it's like having a different weapon for each spell. Having unpaused menus in combat doesn't add anything to the gameplay itself. It's purely a challenge of how fast you can use the mouse and keyboard. Exactly. That's exactly the problem, Hazard. It's like, and like, is that really what we're like? How quickly you can wrestle with the controls to get the game to do what you want it to do? I don't think it's tremendously fun. It's not. You're right. It doesn't add to the gameplay. Also, in Ellie, the character can't even move while the menu's open, while enemies can, so it's already unfair. Yeah, it's like if I had to like stop and then like have like a HUD appear above my face, and like I gotta cycle through this thing. And once again, I feel like the spells are the best example of why this doesn't work. It's like if I exist within the world of Skyrim, the difference between me using Fireball versus using a ward, it's literally like the spell that I'm thinking of, you know what I mean? So I can switch between them instantaneously as far as we know. But if you're doing it with the unpaused menus, it's not really the case. It's like me going Fireball and then me being like searching for my ward, trying to figure out which spot that I put it in. Meanwhile, enemies are getting closer and closer to me, and finally I figure it out, and then I ward. It's like, it's not good. Not ideal. I always disable souls in those menus. Shopping, etc. is fine. Sure, I mean, there's that annoying thing that happens with shopping where like they'll like exit out of the menu and start walking away from you, right? Sometimes, or they'll like continue to spit the voice lines at you. To me, like the semi-decent like place to stop or to allow time to continue going would be like in your inventory. But even then, I don't know. I would like it if I could somehow get the carry weight system to function to where like your backpack is actually a separate container, so that you can't actually like access the items in your backpack on the fly. Like you have to like put it down and then rummage through it, in which case like having the unpaused menus would make sense. And then your regular menu would be frozen, and your regular menu would refer to like just the items that you have on like your bandoliers, which would apply the same way that having the paused favorites menu applies, where it makes it's not supposed to be you wrestling against the controls, I guess. Hey Noteworthy, how you doing? Keep forgetting your Balian's mod as well as Dylan's. Hell yeah. Only thing that can be exploited is changing quickly your weapon on disarm and default requiem. Not a big problem. You're at the right place at the right time. I think being Bay's mod is what got me mod here. Yep, it's absolutely true. And of course, you just being such a delightful person. But I mean, being Balian's mod is it's a good, what's the word? Litmus test. It takes away the tedium of instinctual cast spells. Sure. I mean, smart cast as a means of just making that, like, reducing that tedium, I think it works great. That's like why I added it to begin with, or the concept works great. You know, it's like if having all these spells assigned to a single key avoids you the struggle of going into the menu, selecting this spell, cast that spell, going into the menu, select this spell, cast that spell, going into the menu, and like so on and so forth, especially when a lot of these spells are designed to only last for like 60 seconds. It's fine to, you know, amalgamate them into one hotkey and have them all cast, because they still have a resource expenditure, right, or a resource cost of magicka. The problem with smart cast is that it steps on the toes of certain mechanics. So hopefully AH hotkeys doesn't do that. Yeah, exactly how, you know, the different menus will all function, and the favorites menu is something that I'm going to tackle once I start re-implementing the UI. And then we'll see how it works. The other thing I'd like to do with, you know, carry weight, right, and that kind of backpack system, using like backpack containers, I thought would be really fun, just because having certain items like stored in your backpack is a cool concept, I think. Or even like the idea of like putting down your backpack so that you are a bit more nimble. I think it does a good job from like a realism standpoint. I'm just afraid that it might introduce some additional menu tedium that isn't so fun. For example, like if you pick up items, it would be cool if there was a way to directly add them to your backpack versus having to like add them to your bandolier inventory and then transfer them to your backpack inventory. You know what I mean? That's not so fun. In fact, let's see. Oh, is that only on... I guess it is only on... Oh, portable containers. Maybe this is backpack containers. You can just bind the spells to the 1 through 8 keys. I mean, that's true, too. I suppose if you set them to auto-cast when you press it, you just go bap, 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 bap. Oh, I said a limit of 8 hotkeys is a joke. What about my 9? Oh, sure. Well, I mean, 8 hotkeys is, I think, historically a limitation, or like it was in Oblivion, because that was like all you could fit in their radial menu, right? I think it's just a side effect of having a UI that is primarily designed for consoles first. That's all cool. Can you pick items up and put them directly in their backpack? That's something I feel like would be cool. Portable containers. Opened as containers from inventory via hotkey or while dropped in the world. Oh, that's actually pretty good. Oh, that actually... So, yeah. Better container controls. Do we have that? No. What? Hey. There's now better... Oh. Wait, we have this. I thought we had this. It's portable chest with changing weights. Like, that's all cool. So this seems like it might work fine, because at least this way you can put items from your bandolier inventory into your backpack inventory within the menu itself. That's pretty good. It's tough because those tedious things are kind of fun at first in a survivalist playthrough, and then become a nuisance when you're like saving the world on a big scale. It's true. Very true, Geckhouse. It just depends on the implementation. You know what I mean? Like, there's a certain degree of tedium that is okay, like in that way. I think it's a matter of like something like, okay, here's a good example is what we're looking at here. If option 1 for like putting items from the world into your backpack, if option 1 is I have to pick up the items, turn over here, press the button to put my backpack down, open it up, and then move all the items in, put it down, and then put it back, that's actually not so bad. But compare that versus option 2, which is what we might see here, which is like my backpack is a container within my inventory, so I can just go into my inventory, click the backpack, that opens up the backpack, and then I just move things over. That's like 2 steps less, right? Like 2 clicks less, and is slightly less annoying, I think, to the point where the mechanic itself is kind of like realism as a consequence of tedium, or as a consequence of inventory management, we'll call it. But doing the inventory management is not so hamstrung by the controls or by the implementation so as to become just absolutely annoying. You know what I mean? But I still think that the ideal scenario for usability would be this, plus if there's like a button, like a modifier button that you could hold while taking an item that will just place it directly in your backpack, that would be cool. I wonder if something like this has it. Oh, this is interesting. Using the game's only scripting features. Encumbrance feature works by temporarily lowering you or your followers' total carrying capacity. Huh. No way to display how much each container weighs, or even that your carrying capacity is being altered. I believe this one does, though. So you're telling me you want Divinity inventory managing. That depends, Russ. I can't remember how it works in Divinity. It's been a while since I played it. Why don't you let players unequip backpacks that have items in them? Okay. Divinity game. Right. Talking to Original Sin? I don't remember quite how it works. Oh, thank you for the sub, Geekhouse. Geckhouse, sorry. I read that in my shitty text over here. It looked like 2 E's. You hit a ball in baseball, you do not think about the mathematics of the hit. You have to hit the ball so many times, you just know instinctually where the ball will go, and you hit the ball just like that. Yes. It is true. Ow. Yeah, so this is going to be something that I look at myself. We'll see. I'll try very hard to make a system that makes sense and feels intuitive. I really wish, because I believe this one you can see how much it weighs, because you have to put them down. And it's not terrible, the idea of like having to put your backpack down to put stuff inside of it, right? It's just, if you have to do it all the time, it could be annoying. It just would be really, really nice if you just got to put stuff directly in your backpack. And this one's implementation, I'm not quite so sure about. Especially if the way that it functions is by reducing the amount of total carry weight you have versus adding carry weight to your thing. So what I would like to do is, essentially I want to make it so that the more stuff you're carrying, the faster or slower you move, right? And to do that, I need to have something like this backpack and the stuff inside of it. They need to add to your carry weight in order for that to work. So this one kind of might not be viable in and of itself, but with the backpack container, we have those potential usability issues. But I just kind of anticipated like a scenario, right, where you are able to like put your backpack down to let yourself move a little bit faster, almost like a, here, check this out. There's a GIF that I saw in the DayZ subreddit today that perfectly encompassed, you know, what I think is kind of cool. Let's see, DayZ. So check this out. And then I'm going to have to run after this and grab some lunch. What do you guys think I should have for lunch? Got to cook some chicken. I have some chicken waiting for me in the fridge. Maybe I'll do that. But I also might make I have a breakfast sandwich that I make often. So check this out. This GIF. Oh, pizza sounds delicious. So the caption, if you can't see it, when you're ready to risk it all to get out of the rain. So this guy takes his backpack off and then throws it kind of across the thing because it's way harder for him to make this jump if he has his massive backpack on, right? So I like that idea. I really like that element of realism. It makes sense to me that while you're carrying this big old backpack, and by the way, if you guys have never played DayZ before, what he just did is so crazy. This game is not exactly intuitive from a movement standpoint. But I really like this idea that you kind of are encumbered by the stuff that you carry, and also that your inventory is limited according to, you know, space and how much you're carrying. And also I think that kind of restricting your live inventory, as we'll call it, and like to what's in your bandoliers and what's immediately accessible versus the stuff that's in your backpack has the secondary advantage of making your inventory a little better sorted, so to speak, right? Like you don't have to constantly dig through a bunch of stuff that you're just kind of carrying as loot to find what you're looking for. Connor, how does Outward do backpacks? I haven't played Outward yet. I would like to, though. And then I'm going to sign off after that. Let's see who's on Twitch. Is George online? He usually is. You guys like our boy George? Boy George, I say that every time. Zero Period Productions, he is. Oh, we got quite a few people here. Oh, no. No, thank you. Oh, this is Hana. I got there. Game's done quick. Ding dong. The problem is all these boys are huge, you know what I mean? I feel like George definitely benefits the most from our little family going and saying hello, because there was also cross-pollination. We're all interested in the same shit. The increased carry weight, of course, they also inhibit rolling. If you don't take them off, they can carry a lantern for you too. Very cool. See, I like that idea. I mean, that's pretty close. I do wish that I swear backpack containers would be fine if there was like a way for me to directly put items in my backpack. But you could also make the argument that, you know, like IRL, for me to put an item in my backpack, I have to take it off, you know, and put it kind of in front of me. So it's not the worst. Maybe it's something that we can easily get used to, you know what I'm saying? In any case, I think that's going to do it for me. Oh, let me read this real fast. You can start playing my LE game, playing LTD, get it out of my system. I've yet to get a late game with a true US build. Well, Ron, I wish you the best of luck. Anyway, thank you guys for joining me, as always. Out of the box, I see that in all the mod lists, no one adds great cities or towns or hold. Do you know any reason why, or it's just for taste? Some mod lists do. I think probably it's because they're very extensive, and they make, like, Great Cities is a little bit more modular in that, you know, there's a Great Cities mod for each city. but they make a lot of changes, and maybe it's not to everyone's tastes. Same thing with holds is it's very extensive and it's less modular, and they each cause a lot of compatibilities issues. What I would eventually like to do, this is especially with holds, but also with some of the Great Cities stuff, I would like to just kind of mash them together. There's a lot that I like from both mods, especially holds. So, I might do it eventually, but it takes a lot of, ask Sacriletius, it takes a ton of effort to get all this stuff working alongside each other. In any case, thank you guys for joining me as always. I'll see you at the same time next week, unless, barring any acts of God, or, follow me on Twitter or Reddit or whatever the heck for, the latest schedule updates. But I promise I'll also be, for those of you who are interested more in the development manifestos and stuff, I'll try to start bringing those to Patreon as well, and for everyone, but just host them there. So I will see. I hope you guys have a great weekend, and let me get this raid going for our man George, not our boy George. He's my boy, you know what I mean? But makes it sound like I'm saying boy George. Which also, to be fair, boy George is great. Thank you guys for joining, Master. Have a good rest of your day. Let me know if you need help with the one mod. We'll do Anor Dill. And thank you for all the stuff you've been sending me. It really is tremendously helpful. As you can see, I'm not the best multitasker as is, and I'm trying to juggle several different plates at once. All right, we ready to go? All right, thank you guys for joining me again. Let's go say hi to George. Here we go. Commence raid.